librarian here at the South Cobb Regional Library. Thank you for joining us this month again for our super exciting Craftspiration video. This month we will be making these really fun and interesting paper magnolias. I'll get a little closer to the camera since it has some trouble with the white. You can see what those look like there. And these were inspired by the Craft Oversized Magnolias by Brittany Watson Jepson. Let's go ahead and get started. Alright, I am ready to go ahead and get started making my magnolia. And if you were able to get a kit from the South Cobb Regional Library, then these are the supplies that are in your kit. And if not, these are things you'll want to look into and see if you can find. So I have some wire, a little bit of floral tape, and then I have a guide that tells me how to make this craft. I also have a blank piece of white printer paper, the templates that we'll need for all the different parts so that we get them cut to roughly the right shape, and there should be 2 pages here, one with the leaves and the stamen, and a second one that has the petals on it. Okay, there's also white cardstock, green cardstock, and some yellow or gold colored paper as well. And so based on what we have over here, the supplies that you will need to get yourself are not all that surprising. You'll need a pencil to trace, some glue to hold everything together, a pair of scissors to cut out your shapes, and the most surprising thing that you're going to need is a push pin or a needle just to make some really tiny holes to thread your wire through. Alright, let's go ahead and get started with this. Alright, the first step that we're going to want to do is to trace our stamen shape onto our gold color paper. So I am going to line this up down here with this corner just to let the natural shape of the paper do part of the work for me, and it doesn't need to be perfect or exact the way we're going to roll this up. We'll hide a lot of imperfections if there are any, and we don't need to trace every single little shape along the way for where we're going to frill it. So I went ahead and I traced that, and now we will cut this out, and then we will cut out all of our other template shapes. And the reason that you want to trace your stamen and cut out the others is that we're going to do the others on thicker paper. They won't trace as well, and additionally, since the stamen overlaps the leaf, then that is a problem. Alright, so I have my stamen here, and I went ahead and I cut out the rest of the templates. What I'm going to do now is to go ahead and to cut some fringe along the edge of the stamen and go ahead and make that part. And they don't need to be perfect. We just want to make sure that we definitely have this bottom edge down here. Make sure that part always isn't cut up so that we'll be able to have a solid surface to glue and thread our wire through. Alright, as you can see, I went ahead and I cut fringe along this top edge here across my stamen. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to carefully roll this up to create the shape of a stamen. And while I'm doing this, I'm going to put some glue every so often just so that it'll go ahead and stick together. As we're rolling it, we're going to add glue across this whole inside edge here. a little line. I probably actually got too much there, but since it's not really affecting the fringe, that won't be a major problem at the end. So we're going to start rolling this. I'm going to want it to be fairly tight, but you also want it to have a little bit of room for the fringe to breathe. And so you want to work this at an angle like that, so that the lower parts at the end are physically lower than the top parts are, to create this sort of tiered look and effect. So I finished rolling that up, and I'm going to just hold it long enough for it to stay in place, and then once that is done, we will just set it aside to dry the rest of the way while we make the rest of our petals. Okay, the next step that we're going to want to do is to trace our petals onto our cardstock, and we're going to want to have 7 of the small petals and 3 of the large petals. And if you want to do a few more than that, that is fine, but you want to make sure that you have enough for some overall coverage. So I will go ahead and trace them and cut them out, and I will be right back. Okay, as you can see here, I have cut out a number of magnolia petals that I will be using to create my flower. And it's at this point that if you want to create a pop of color within your flowers, that you would paint your magnolia leaves down here at the bottom or all over, whatever you want to do, but this is when you would want to do that. And what we're going to do next is we're going to take each petal that we have, and we are going to carefully bend the sides, and we'll bend them up so that they are touched together. We don't want this part to be completely like creased. We just want to have a little bit of a curl to our leaves like this to help get the three-dimensional effect. Okay, once you have gently bent all of your petals, you're going to want to get your leaf template and your green cardstock, and then we are going to trace and cut out 3 leaves at least. You could probably do 4 or maybe even 5 if you wanted, but you'll want to do at least 3. So I will make these and then we'll be right back. Okay, I have cut out 3 leaves, as you can see here. So I am going to go ahead and actually fold these in half. And we do want to get a little bit of a crease on the leaves. And after you fold it in half, you're going to unfold it and flatten it back out. And I'm going to go ahead and do this on all 3, and then we will be right back. Alright, I have folded and flattened out all of my leaves, and if it doesn't go straight from tip to tip, that's fine as long as it's pretty close. So I'm going to set these aside, and we're going to start assembling our magnolia flower. So what we're going to want to do here is we're going to want to glue all of our petals together to kind of create a circle. So start with the bigger, wider ones on the bottom, and we just sort of layer those to create overall coverage under the narrower ones. And you can adjust these and shift them so that they are in the positions that you need them to be in when you get done. So I have all of my petals glued down, and they're pretty good coverage, but I'm just going to shift this one over here just a little bit and adjust that accordingly. So now that I have all of those put in place, you're going to flip the entire flower very carefully over, and we're going to glue our leaves on the bottom. So you're going to just sort of press it down so that the leaf is actually glued straight. You're going to want it to go a little bit past the center once it is solid and glued. So there we go. So I flipped it back over, and now I am going to let it dry part of the way, just so that I can mess with it a little bit and not have to worry about petals falling off. And how long that needs to take will depend on the type of glue that you're using, but you want it to just be soft enough that you can still easily punch a hole through it, but not so wet that everything just rips the second you move it and shift it. Okay, I have let my magnolia flower dry for about 20 minutes. So mine's mostly dry, but not quite all the way there yet. So now you're going to want to get your wire, the push pin or needle you're going to use to punch holes, and your stamen. So first thing we're going to do is you're going to kind of fold the bottom of your stamen in half a little bit and just poke a hole all the way through both sides of it. Depending on how dry it is, this may be easier or harder, but and once you have those holes in place, you can just rework it so that it's round again, and you can always take your stamen and take the fringe and kind of fluff it out a bit so there's a little bit more volume to the craft as a whole. Now that we have our stamen ready, we're going to carefully stab 2 holes into our magnolia flower as well, and you want to make sure that each leaf and petal has at least 1 hole that goes through it. So I'm going to just carefully work that through, and depending on how wet this can be, it might get a little messy, and actually looks like I just barely hit the edge of the leaf there. And I'm going to come over to here, and I'm going to repeat this. And if you see it just started to sort of come through, you can flip it over and try to work the hole going back through the other direction as well. So okay, now have 2 holes going through my leaves and my petals and my stamen as well. So now you're going to take your wire and start on the bottom in one of your holes and just thread it through the flower. And sometimes your holes are going to try to close up, and when that happens, just rework it carefully with your push pin. I'm having a lot of trouble right now, so I probably should have let it dry more. If you're having too much trouble, you can let it dry for a bit and then come back and try again. But alright, looks like I now have that hole going all the way through there, and then work it through your stamen next. Okay. This can be a little tricky, but it shouldn't be too bad. And then put it back through the other hole that you have made. All right. So now, when you pull it tightly, all of the parts should be there, and you're going to want to flip it over upside down and make sure that your stamen is at the middle of your wire. So just gather that together and twist it in place so that the whole thing won't fall apart. If you had a bit of trouble getting your pieces to go together, you can add more glue right now, and that'll help just kind of get everything to stay together the way that you want it to. And then I'm going to hang this upside down and allow it to dry. And the way I am going to hang it upside down is I am going to take my pencil that I used to trace my edges. I'm just going to wrap the extra wire around the end, and then I'm going to hang it off the side of my table. Alright, I have allowed my magnolia to dry overnight upside down, and as you can tell here, it's holding the shape pretty well. It is a little bit more squished up than I'd like, but you can adjust that just by pushing it down a little bit, and it actually will loosen up over time as gravity affects it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get our floral tape, and we're just going to carefully wrap the wire stem from the top here with the flowers and do it all the way down to the bottom. And you can cut your stem shorter if you don't want a longer stem. And if you haven't worked with floral tape before, it is a little tricky. But all you want to do is take it and pull it tight and hold it down as you continue to wrap. The floral tape has a wax in it that will stick to itself. So I am going to continue wrapping this, and then I will be right back. As you can see here, I have wrapped my entire stem with the floral tape. And now that we have done that, your magnolia is done. If you want to create a stronger stem, you can wrap it twice. If you need to adjust the petals, you can still do that a little bit at this point, but it is a lot harder now that it is dry. So with that in mind, we are done with our project. All right, everyone, that is the end of our craft. You can see my finished magnolia right here, and you can use this to make a floral bouquet or just use it as an accent somewhere. You can do whatever you want. You can adapt it and change this technique to make other types of flowers that you see around. And I cannot wait to see what you make when you share your results with us on social media. So that is the end of this month's video. Next month, we will be making seed bombs and a floral hanger. So I hope you'll come back then and get the kits and watch the video and share your results. Bye!